Okay, so good morning to all of you again, and let us continue from where we stopped yesterday. So yesterday we started about talking the addressing scheme that is being followed at the internet layer as a part of the IP addressing scheme. So what we have seen that historically people used to divide the entire address space into two parts, the network IP and the host IP. So the network IP basically contains the address component that individually identifies every network or every subnet in the internet. And the host component is used to individually identify every host in the network. So the entire address space that was divided into 5 different classes, and out of that 3 classes, class A, class B, and class C IP addresses was primarily to assign it for the host. So from that perspective, these 3 classes were designed in such a way so that in case of class A, you have 8-bit of network address space and 24-bit of host address space. So that way you can support large number of hosts within a network. So in every network IP at the class A, you can have at most 2 to the power 24 minus 2, that many number of hosts. Why minus 2? Because we have two special addresses, the network address and the broadcast address. The network address when all bits in the host address field is 0. So that particular address is used to identify individual networks in the internet. And then the broadcast address is when all bits in the host address fields are 1. That way, that particular address is used to broadcast a data packet within a network so that every host in the network receive the packet. So later on, we'll see that what is the utility of the broadcast address. One of the typical use cases the address resolution protocol or ARP. Later on, we'll see all this usage of different kind of IP addresses. Okay. So class A was basically used to design a network with a large number of hosts. Class B was equal number of network bit and the host bit. So 16 bit of network and 16 bit of host. So you can support 2 to the power 16 minus 2 number of hosts at every network. And class C was designed to support small networks where you have 24 bits of network IP and 8 bits for host IP. So that way, for every individual network, you can support at most of 2 to the power 8 minus 2, that many number of hosts. So that way, we have broadly divided into 3 classes, followed by one group for multicast addresses and one group for reserved addresses, class D and class C. So primarily to an individual host, the IPs are assigned from either of class A or class B or class C. And we identify whether an address belongs to class A or belongs to class B or class C by looking into the first few bits. So in case of class A, the first bit would be 0. In case of class B, the first bit would be 10. In case of class C, the first bit would be 110. Okay. So that way you can identify whether it is class A, class B, class C. Accordingly, you can determine that how many bits are for network address and how many bits are for host address. So that way you can separate out the network address and the host address component. So that was the basic idea of classful addressing. Now, in case of classful addressing, we faced a severe problem as number of hosts in the internet got increased. Okay. So one example problem is here. Say you have 255 number of hosts in a network, and you need to decide that which class of IP address will you use, whether you are going to use class C or class B. Okay, so any idea? If you have 255 number of hosts,
Class B.
why?
Means class C only gives only for 254 hosts.
Right, very good. So that means class C is not possible. Well, because in case of class C, for every network address, you can get at most 2 to the power 8 minus 2, that many number of hosts. That means 256 minus 2, 254 number of hosts. So class C is not possible. You need to go for class B. Now, here is the interesting part. Okay. So in class B, if you take a pool of IP addresses from class B, so in case of class B, it supports 2 to the power 16 minus 2, that many number of addresses, right? But you are only going to use 255 hosts in your network, right? So that means you are wasting a huge number of host addresses. Okay. Now, historically, when the network engineers designed this concept of classful addressing, at that time, they have not thought about this problem, because they are not been able to envision that every people will contain some 10 different devices and they will need 10 different IPs to do so, even sometime more than 10. Well, if I just think about my home at IIT Kharagpur, my quarter at IIT Kharagpur, I have my mobile, I have my laptop, my wife has her mobile, she has her laptop. So we need at least 4 addresses, IP addresses for the 2 laptops and the 2 mobiles. Then we have a desktop, so that means we need 5 addresses. I have a smart TV. The smart TV interface needs 1 address. I have one Amazon Alexa that needs 1 IP address. I have a smart AC that needs 1 IP address. So that way, every individual device that you want to connect to the internet, that will require an IP address. Okay, so that way, if every person or every house needs that many number of IP addresses, you can see that over the last few years, the way the requirement for IP addresses has increased. Okay, so that problem actually started coming from early 1990s, when people started to have more than 1 devices with them, which needed IP addresses. Okay. And at that time, the amount of IP addresses that we had was not sufficient. Well, so if we go for this classful IP addressing scheme, and if we try to assign IP addresses to individual network based on this class discrimination, then it is very common that in many cases you need such many number of IP addresses, but that is kind of the class C IP addresses or the class C blocks are too small to assign that, whereas class Bs are very large and to result in wasting a number of IP addresses as a result. Okay, so because of that reason, the network engineer thought of that, well, this kind of classful IP addresses we cannot use in practice, because it will result in a wastage of huge number of IP addresses, and soon we will have no more IP addresses left that we can assign to a new device. And people started designing some concept called classless interdomain routing, or CIDR. Okay, so what is this classless interdomain routing? So in case of classless interdomain routing, we started using the concept of IP addresses where we do not need any classes. Well, now from this point of time, we had many interesting design which happened in the network. Well, so this network engineering means, personally, I believe that is an excellent design or excellent use case, that how engineering and how what we call that so-called jugaad make the system working. And typically many of the times we are bound to do a jugaad rather than finding out the optimal solution, because of a reason that is called backward compatibility. Now, what is this backward compatibility? The backward compatibility means whatever new protocol you are designing, that new protocol needs to be compatible with your old protocol. And why do we need that? We need that because, say, in case of network, it is a kind of pure distributed system, right? It is not like that you have a single machine, and on that single machine you are running your software or you are running your application. So you are running your application across the network. Well, so that means all the machines in the globe that want to talk to each other, they need to be compatible with each other. Well, otherwise they will not be able to talk to each other. So that means if I'm using certain protocol, that protocol should be understandable to other machines in the internet. Well, and the interesting fact is that in one day, you will never be able to replace this entire network architecture. Okay, because that is never possible. You cannot ask every people in the internet who are using say the network connectivity to say that you upgrade your machine to download this new protocol stack. Okay, so that is never possible. And here was a very interesting use case that in case of IP, we had IPv4. People started using IPv4 and IPv4 was globally accepted and all the machines were started working with IP addressing scheme. And gradually people understood around 1980s during that time that see IPv4 is not going to sustain a long. So we are not going to do with 32-bit IP addresses. So that is going to make our life very difficult because we will have more number of devices compared to whatever is being supported by IPv4 addressing scheme. So people designed IPv6, IP version 6. We'll not be able to cover IP version 6 in this course because of the timing constraint that we have. But just in a brief idea, IPv6 used to increase the address space a lot. Rather than using 32-bit IP address, it used 256-bit IP address. Okay, so that way you will have large number of address space in your IPv6, and accordingly you can support large number of devices. But the problem with IPv6 was it was not backward compatible. Okay, and because it was not backward compatible, although people understand that well IPv4 is not going to sustain and we need a new protocol, but till now, so IPv6 was designed around 1985-86 during that time, and now we are in 2021. So in the last 30 years, we are not been able to 30 or 35 years, we are not been able to deploy IPv6 over the globe. Okay, so there are some pockets in the internet that uses IPv6, but globally we are not been able to make IPv6 acceptable to everyone. Well, we have to do it IP version 4. Well, so that is a kind of tragedy in the internet, and at the same time, so people have to live with 32-bit IP addresses, and they started doing different kind of jugars, okay, to solve this, and we'll learn many of these jugars. So and all the idea was that so that we can make the internet somehow workable. So one of those jugar was this concept of classless interdomain routing. Okay, so you had classful IP addresses, and initially people found out that well, one of the major source of wastage is these classes. Well, the example that I shown here, if you need 255 hosts, you cannot use class C, you have to go for class B. But in class B, you result in wasting a large number of IP addresses. Okay, so the idea was break the concept of class and dynamically split a large network or combine multiple small network together for efficient use of address space. Okay, so that means if I create an organization with 255 number of hosts, I need 255 number of IP address. I go to say for buying IP addresses. Well, and whenever I am say I will buy IP addresses from NIXI, National Internet Exchange of India, who are in charge of distributing the block of IP addresses to different institutes within India. So I will go to NIXI, I will ask them that, hey, I have 255 number of hosts in my organization. Please give me a block of IP addresses. So what NIXI will do, rather than giving you the full class B block, they will break the class B block into multiple smaller blocks and will provide one such small block to you. Okay, so that way you can divide the large network into multiple small network, or the other way is also possible. You can combine multiple class C block together to have one single block. Okay, and that way we use two different terms. So one is called subnetting, another one is called supernetting. So in case of subnetting, we divide a large network into multiple small networks. In case of supernetting, we combine multiple small networks into a large network. Okay, and how do we do that? So we do that with the help of a field called subnet mask. What is this subnet mask? This subnet mask denote the number of bits in the network address field. Because say, whenever I am dividing a class B address into multiple small network, or I am combining multiple class C block into a single network, in that case, my network addresses is becoming dynamic, right? So I cannot go with that fixed number of bits in the network that was there in case of classful IP addressing, where you know that if it is a class A, then you have 8-bit of network address. If it is class B, you have 16-bit of network address. And if it is class C, then you have 24 bits of network address. So that was fixed, but now it is not fixed anymore, right? You need to make it dynamic. Now to make it dynamic, you need another field. Well, that field will denote that how many bits are part of the network and how many bits are part of the host. And that particular field, which we needed as a part of IP addressing, we call it as the subnet mask. Okay, so I hope that you have already heard about this subnet mask while doing your lab assignments, or even while configuring your IP address, and that was the purpose of the subnet mask. So what we are doing here, earlier I had the network prefix and the host number. Now the host part I am dividing into two parts. One is the subnet number, another one is the final number of hosts within that subnet. Now my network IP is now combining this network prefix along with the subnet number. Okay, and this subnet number is decided dynamically. So here is an example. Okay, say my IP addresses is the top one. Okay, so I have just divided into 4 different blocks, the way we represent it. Now say I divide the subnet in this way. Well, so you see that the first 2 bits is 10. The first 2 bits is 10 means it is a class B IP address. If I think about the classful addressing scheme, that means in case of our original classful scheme, I should have 16 bits for the network address and the 16-bit for the host address. Well, now what we are doing here, this network part I am dividing further in the network address and the host address, and in the network part I am just taking 4 bits, well, to define a subnet, and the remaining number of bits I am moving it as a part of the host. So that means rather than making it a 16-bit network, I am making it a 12-bit subnet. Okay, so accordingly I will define my net mask or the subnet mask, that the first 12 bit of the subnet mask will be all ones, and the remaining 12 will be remaining 32 minus 12, that means 20 bits will be zeros. And what does this subnet mask signifies? The subnet mask signifies that this first 12 bit indicates your network IP, and the remaining 20 bits are indicating your host IP. And you see the way we designed it, if I just make a logical AND between the IP address and the net mask, I will get the network IP of that subnet. Okay, so the network IP of that subnet will be 10111111.00000.0000000.0000000.0000000. Okay, so that is going to be the network IP. So this is the way we represent it when we do this bitwise operation. Well, so all the bits in the subnet mask will be ones, that denote the network IP field, and the remaining bits will be 0. Now, sometimes what we do that when we write it in the dotted decimal format, we write it in the format of 191.180.83.235/12. So this /12 actually indicates that I have 12 bits in this IP address in the dotted decimal format as the network IP or the network address. Okay. So the first 12 bits are the network address, and the rest 32 minus 12, that means 20 bits are for the host address. Okay. So you can either go with the bitwise notation. Well, so you can define the subnet mask here. So if you just take it, it will be 255.240.0.0. You can define the subnet mask using this dotted decimal format, or you can define the subnet mask combined with the IP address by this slash notation, where you first write down the IP address 191.180.83.235 and then give slash an integer number which will define the number of bits in your subnet, indicating that how many bits are used for indicating the network address component. So here 12 bits are used for indicating the network address component. So we make it as /12. Okay. So you can use either of these two notations. Now, if you have done manual IP settings in your operating system, you will see that you need to put up this information. Okay, so the left-hand side shows the IP configuration from a Windows machine, and the right-hand side shows the IP configuration from a Linux machine. So here you see that you need to give three different information. The primary information, whenever you are configuring your IP address, you need to provide an IP address. You need to provide a subnet mask. Okay, so that subnet mask will denote that how many bits in this IP address are part of the network IP and how many bits are for host. So if I make it 255.255.255.0, that means the first 24 bits are the network IP. Okay, so that means 192.168.1.0 is my network IP. And you also provide the default gateway. We'll see the purpose of default gateway later on in details, but the default gateway is basically to indicate that within a subnet, which machine or which particular IP work as a router or work as a gateway to the outside internet. That means if you want to forward a packet outside this subnet, to which machine you will forward that packet, which will do the routing. Well, so that particular machine, we call it as the gateway or default gateway. So here my default gateway is 192.168.1.1. Similarly, in case of Linux machine, you can give the IP address, you can give the net mask, and you give the gateway. Apart from that, we need to provide the DNS address, the IP of the DNS server. So you learned about DNS earlier. So the IP of your DNS servers need to be given so that whenever you are trying to resolve some website using names, you can get the corresponding IP address from the DNS. Okay, so that is the way the IPs are configured manually, and typically whenever you configure your IP through some broadband or broadband service, or whenever you do it from your IIT Kharagpur hostel or even lab, we use a protocol called DHCP, Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. Okay, so that is a network management protocol, and this Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol, it is a server client-based protocol. So we will have a DHCP server running. So whenever you first start your network, so your machine will broadcast DHCP packet. We'll find out that what is the DHCP server, where the DHCP server is running. It will contact the DHCP server, and the DHCP server will provide you about the IP addressing details that will contain these three fields. Indeed, all the four fields: IP address, subnet mask, gateway, and preferred DNS. And that will get configured in your machine automatically. So if you do an auto configuration of the IP address, that is being done with the help of that DHCP protocol or Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. Otherwise, if you manually put the IP address, you need to put all this information. Okay. Any doubt up to this point about this concept of subnetting or about IP configuration? Okay. So I'm assuming, because see, this is an online class, I cannot see any one of you, right? So if you are not asking any question, I'm assuming that you have understood, and I'm proceeding accordingly. Well, but if you feel that you are not been able to understood, you feel that some part I need to repeat, feel free to poke me. Well, so I'll be happy to explain that part again. Okay. Now let us see an example about how we can divide a network into subnet. Okay, so these are actually the tasks that the network administrator have to do very regularly. And if you are going to take a network administrator job in any industry or anywhere else, you need to do these things very frequently. Say I want to divide a network into subnet. Well, so let me tell you one example about dividing this network into subnet. Well, so the way we configure the IP addresses in IIT Kharagpur. So for example, this IIT Kharagpur is a single autonomous system that I mentioned yesterday's class. So IIT Kharagpur, they purchased the network from ARNET typically. So there are other service providers as well, but for the timing, just assume that ARNET is our main service provider, or we take from something called NKN, National Knowledge Network. So whenever you are subscribing to their internet, they will provide a block of IP addresses to you. So you will basically mention that how many IP addresses do you need for your organization. They will provide you that block of IP address. Now, what you have to do, you have to divide that block of IP addresses into multiple subnets based on your requirement and assign a block of IP address or a subnet to individual different sub-organizations that you are forming. So for example, in case of IIT Kharagpur network, we have different departments, right? And that like the computer science and engineering, electrical, electronics, mathematics, mining, metallurgy, civil. We have all these different blocks. We have that again the administrative blocks, the different halls, then the say the residential complex that has again different housing societies and all these things. Now each of them need a block of IP address. Well, and as I mentioned to you earlier, that we want to do this entire process in a hierarchical fashion, because so that we can hierarchically decode that what is going to be the network and in which particular subnet I need to forward the packet, because the final objective of this IP addressing scheme is to forward the packet to the final end host. Well, so the entire question comes that how I am going to forward, and that way you need this kind of hierarchical architecture. Say for example, if I want to forward a packet to Software Lab 2, to a machine in Software Lab 2, I need to send a packet from CIC to the Computer Science Department to the Software Lab 2, okay, at that hierarchy. So that means IIT Kharagpur will take a block of IP addresses from, say, ARNET or NKN. Once they get a block of IP address, they divide it into multiple subnets depending on the different blocks they want to, further sub-blocks they want to create. Say one for CSE, one for EC, one for the administration, one for each hall, okay? And then maybe the residential complex, it has divided into multiple zones, one for each zone, something like that. Now, the block of IP addresses that is assigned to the CSE department, it is given to the Software Lab people of the CSE department, and they will divide it further into multiple subnets. Okay, so that means, see, I am getting one block of IP address. First, I am dividing into one set of subnets, giving it into my sub-organizations, like the CIC is giving to the CSE department, and CSE department is further dividing it into two. Okay, say one for, say, Software Lab 1, one for Software Lab 2, and assign it accordingly. Okay, so that way you can hierarchically keep on dividing it into multiple subnets. Well, and here let us see one mathematical example of it. First, simple example, and then we'll see a complex example. So the first example that says that I have a block of IP addresses, which is 203.110.0.0/16. Okay, so you can understand that this is a typical class B IP address, where the first 16 bits are the network address and the remaining 16 bits are the host address. and I want to divide this network into 3 subnets. Well, now to divide it into 3 subnets, how many bits do I need? Well, I need 3 bits. Why not 2 bits? Because using 2 bits, I can get 4 subnets. Well, and out of that, I need to have -2 because one IP address will be used for the network IP, one IP address will be used for broadcast IP. That means I should never use all zeros and all one subnet. Okay, so we'll see that why you should try to avoid all 0 and all 1 subnets in a couple of slides from now. But while designing, you should try to avoid that. Although our modern routers do not explicitly require that you avoid all zeros and all 1 subnets, but still to make sure that your network does not have any kind of inconsistency in terms of IP addresses, you should always avoid all zeros and all 1 subnets. Okay, so if I try to avoid that too, that means I will with 2 bits I will result in 2 subnets, but I need 3 subnets. Okay, so that way I need 3 bits because using 3 bits we can have 8 minus 2. That means at most 6 number of subnets you can design. Well, and then you decide about the subnet IPs. What are the subnet IPs? Again, as I have mentioned, that while you are designing the subnet IPs, try to avoid all 0 and all 1. Okay, say for subnet 1 I assign it as 100. Okay, so that means and for subnet 2 I take it as 101. For subnet 3 I take it as 110. That means if you look into the original block of IP address, in this original block of IP address I had 16 bit for the host. Out of that 16 bits, I am taking 3 bits out, well, putting it as a part of the subnet. And that 3 bits, if they are 100, that means it is subnet 1. If it is 101, that means subnet 2. If it is 110, that means subnet 3. And the remaining 13 bits, that means 16 minus 3, that is the 13 bits, they will be used for addressing the individual hosts within that subnet. So that way, what is going to be the network IP for these 3 subnets that I have created? So the first subnet will be 203.110. Then from these 12 bits, I have from this 8 bits, I have taken the first 3 bits as 100. Well, and the remaining will be 0. So it becomes to 128, 128.0. And now I have 16 plus 3. Total 19 bits are used for denoting the network IP component, including the subnet. So I make it /19. Similarly, the second subnet becomes 203.110.160.0/19. And the third subnet, considering it as 110, it becomes 203.110.192.0/19. Okay, so that way we can create 3 different subnets. Any doubt into this idea? Let me know if you have any doubt, because later on you have to solve this kind of problems yourself. Okay, assuming that the idea is clear to you. Well, now let us see that why we should avoid all 0 and all 1 subnets. Okay, now say you got a pool of IP addresses 192.168.0.0/16. Okay, now if you consider a all 0 subnet, then you see that the network IP of this subnet still becomes 192.168.0.0/17. If I just take 1 bit as the subnet bit, and use 0 as the subnet, which we call as the subnet 0, then you see the network IP of this subnet and the original network IP are remaining same. Okay, so the network address for the subnet and the original network is identical. Well, so that is the problem if you take a all 0 subnet. In case of all 1 subnet, if you make it all ones, okay, so if you take this one here, So the broadcast IP of this subnet will be all host bit as 1. So the broadcast IP will be 192.168.255.255. And you see that the broadcast IP for this original network from where you have created the subnet, it is also 192.168.255.255. So that means if you broadcast a packet with IP address 192.168.255.255, it is difficult to find out whether you want to broadcast within this subnet or whether you want to broadcast within the original network. Okay, so that because the broadcast IP for the original network and the broadcast IP for the subnet is becoming the same. Well, so that is the problem we face if you consider all one subnets. Well, and that is the reason we typically try to avoid this all zero and all one subnets, because in case of all zero subnets, the network IP becomes same. In case of all one subnet, the broadcast IP becomes same. So it is advisable not to use them as your subnet IP. Well, but just remember that our modern routers, they are intelligent enough to divide the domains of the IP address, well, explicitly. So that way they say that, well, you still can use if it is absolutely essential, but ideally it is advisable to avoid them. Okay, now let us see another example of CIDR. Okay, so the type of example that I was talking about earlier, that the CIC get a block of IP address and they need to divide it among different hosts within IIT Kharagpur. Okay, so here we will look into the idea of both subnetting and supernetting. Okay, so we talked about subnetting where I'm dividing the host address part, the supernetting where we can merge multiple small network together. So here in the example, let us say that CIC has got a block of IP address from NKN, and that block of IP address is 203.110.0.0/19. And for the timing, CIC wants to divide it into 3 different subnets, and these 3 different subnets, one for CAC, one for VGSUM, and one for E. Okay. So for the CSC department, assume that it requires 2000 hosts. For the VGSUM, assume that it requires 500 hosts, and for E, it requires 500 hosts. Okay. For the students from the other departments, do not get angry on me because I have put less number of hosts in other departments or not mentioned all the departments. This is just for an example. Okay, so some hypothetical example. Okay, so you need to divide that. Right? So the question comes that how you are going to do it. Right? So let's see. This is a very interesting example. So first, our first task would be to find out that, well, in individual departments, the maximum number of possible hosts that have been mentioned. So let us try to find out that how many bits do I actually require at the host space, because that many bits are my essential requirement because I need to support that many number of hosts. So in case of CSC, you have 2000 hosts, so you need 11 bits. In case of VGSUM and E, you have 500 hosts, you need 9 bits. Okay, so that is the first step. Now the question comes that in case of this block of IP addresses that I have, well, that CIC got that they want to divide into these 3 departments, it has a subnet mask of /19. That means how many bits are remaining for the host address? That is 32 minus 19 equal to 13 bits. So I have 13 bits remaining, and out of that 13 bits, I need 11 bit for the CSE, 9 bit for the VGSUM, and 9 bit for the E. Well, so that is my challenge. Well, so that means if I just, so among CSE, VGSUM, and E, the maximum is CSE, it needs 11 bits. So if I take these 11 bits all together, what is my problem? My problem is that I have 13 bits available. If I make 11 bit as the host, I will have 2 bit remaining. But using 2 bit, I cannot have 3 different subnets, considering I want to avoid all 0 and all 1 subnets. Okay? The problem is clear to all of you? So again, repeating that I have 13 bit available, well, to serve all the hosts of the IIT Kharagpur network. And based on the requirements from individual department, I have seen that maximum I have to take 11 bit for the host address part. That means I have 2 bits left, and using that 2 bits, I cannot have, or I cannot create 3 different subnets. Well, so what is the solution? So the solution here is we have to apply CIDR and apply supernetting. So let us combine VGSUM and EE network together. So if I combine VGSUM and EE network together, then I will get 1000 different hosts. Okay, I just put one additional router here. Well, that router need 1000 different hosts, 500 hosts for VGSUM and 500 hosts for EE. So that particular network where I am combining it, it needs 10 bit for the host part. Okay, so that means initially from the 13 bits, I am making it in a hierarchical way. Initially from the 13 bits, I need to create 2 different subnet, one having 11 bit for the host, one having 10 bit for the host. And then from here, I have to create 2 further subnet, one with 9 bit host, another one with also 9 bit host. Okay, so how do we do that? So for CSC, I need 11 bit. For VGSUM plus EE combined, I need 10 bit. So my network address space was 203.110.0.0/19. That means 203.110, then I just take, so these 3 zeros are part of the network IP, 16 plus 3, 19. And the remaining, all these X's that are available to me. I take 2 of these X's, okay? So these 2 bits. So if I take these 2 bits, and for these 2 bits, I can create 2 different subnets. One is with 10, another one is for 01. Okay. So with this 10, I make it as the CSC network, and the IP becomes 203.110.16.0/21. Well, for the VGSUM plus E network, I make it as 203.110.00001. Well, that means 203.110.8.0/21. Okay, and then so this IP address becomes 203.110.8.0/21. Well, and here I have, you see, I have 11 bits left, and from that leftover 11 bits, I can create 2 different 9-bit hosts. Okay, so it was 203.110.8.0/21. That means this part, this up to this red part, I have taken for the subnet combining VGSUM and EE. Well, so I take 2 more bits. So these 2 more bits, I put it as 10 and 01. Well, further, so I make it 203.110.12/0/23 as the subnet for the VGSUM, and 203.110.10.0/23 as the subnet for E. Well, so I am dividing the entire thing hierarchically, and finally creating these individual subnets. Okay, one is with /21, where I am dividing into 2 parts. Well, then into /23, where I am dividing into further 2 parts. So that way, my problem is solved now. Okay. So any doubt that how we are solving it with the help of supernetting? So just broadly recapping it. So what we have seen, that the remaining number of bits that I have using that many number of bits, I will not be able to divide 3 different subnets. Okay. So what we do, that we divide it into 2 subnets at the first place, and from the second subnet we divide it further to have 2 further subnets. Okay, so that was the kind of broad idea where we have applied the concept of subnetting and supernetting to get or to fulfill my requirements. So finally, the block of IP addresses which are coming to the CSC department is 203.110.16.0/21. The block which is going to VGSUM is 203.110.12.0/23, and the block which is going to the electrical is 203.110.10.0/23. Okay, any doubt?
Sir?
Yeah.
Sir, what if there were 1,000 hosts in VGSOM and E department?
Possibly you will not be able to do it. Okay, so I need to check, okay, whether it is at all possible or not. But apparently it looks like it is not possible in that case. Okay, because you will have only 1 bit left. Using that, you will not be able to do it. If you want to avoid all zeros and all one subnet, but if you want to consider all zero, all one subnet, then possibly it is doable. But we just need to calculate and see. Well, so it is not like that every time it will be possible, but and there is no definite rule or hard rule that you need to follow to make it optimized way of IP address use. But it is mostly kind of intelligence and trial and error kind of thing, that how effectively or how intelligently you can think of that, well, I will combine multiple small network together or divide a large network into multiple small network and try to do it. Okay, so one possibility might have been, means I need to try it out and see that in that case, possibly we need to divide CSE into multiple blocks and VGSUM into multiple blocks, C into multiple blocks, and need to see whether it is possible. So you are saying that it is VGSUM 1000, E 1000, right? So if I divide VGSUM into 2 500, that means here I have 2. E becomes 2 500, that means 2 plus 2, 4 subnets. CSE it is 2000. If I divide into again 4, that means 8 subnets, 500 each. So 8 subnets means I need at least 4 bits. Okay. In that case, it is possible. It is possible. I need 4 bits, right? I need 4 bits and yeah, 9 bit for the host. Yeah, it is possible in that way. Well, just think of it in this way, that now rather than combine, you divide every department into multiple subnets having 500 hosts. Okay, so VGSUM you told that it is 1000, E you told 1000. That means VGSUM I am dividing it to 2 subnet, E I am dividing into 2 subnet, CSE I am dividing into 4 subnet. So total I have 4 plus 2 plus 2, 8 subnet. Okay, so to do 8 subnets, I need 4 bits, right? So so if I take 4 bits for the subnet mask, and to support 500 hosts, I need 9 bits. So 9 bits for the host part. So that means 9 plus 4, 13 bits, and I have 13 bits left here, right? Yeah, I have 13 bits left here, so I can do it in that way.
Okay, okay, I got it, sir.
Right. Yeah, so that is a kind of trial and error, like you divide, then combine and see whether possible. Yeah, please carry on.
Sir, is there any software or all this is done by hardware, sir? How all this is done?
Hardware is, there is no question of hardware because it is a logic. Okay, you need to find out the IP address and put it there. Well, software, I know that there are certain softwares available which can do this backward compatibility and find out your IP address. Or are you asking that how I am going to finally assign this IP address? Is it like that? or how do I calculate it? What is your
No,
question?
sir. How you will assign all these, like
Okay, how will you assign?
implementation part?
Now see, good, a good question. So to assign it, say you are finally assigning the IP addresses to a network interface card, right? So for example, in your laptop, you have a network interface card from your operating system kernel, say the configuration screen box that I have shown you earlier. Using that, you can do it. Okay. Or let me just show it to you. Just a minute. So, for example, for your individual cases, let me just share my screen. Okay. So, say this is a Linux machine. I have a Linux machine. So here you can go to setting, under setting here. It has the configuration or the option for configuring your IPv4 address. So currently it is given as automatic or DHCP that I have mentioned. You can use dynamic host configuration protocol to do that, or you can put a manual option, and here you see there is an option to put your IP address, the net mask. Here you can actually put the IP addresses, something like you can put the net mask, you can put the gateway, DNS. Well, so that information to configure your network interface card. Well, so the IP address is finally getting connected with the network interface card that you have. Well, now say in case whenever you are configuring for a machine, let me give you an example. Whenever I am giving a block of IP addresses to our software lab, so the software lab administrator, what they will do, that they will assign the IP addresses to each of these machines. Now the question comes that how you are going to assign the network IP. Well, so these network IPs are kind of logical, and typically I mentioned that we'll have a kind of gateway router. So let me go to that diagram. Okay. Now in this, say in the CSC, okay, in the CSC department, I will have a router, and that router is working like a default gateway of the outgoing interface. Well, so what I will do, that in CSC department, for all the machines which are there, I will provide one IP addresses from this block. Okay. Say for example, for one machine, I can provide the IP address at 202.110.16.1. The next machine I will provide at 16.2. The next machine I will provide at 16.3. So that way. And the router that is interconnecting all this machine, that is the outgoing router, I will provide one IP to the outgoing interface of that router. Okay. And that IP is going to be the default gateway for all the machines within the CSC department. Okay. And for the router also, okay, I'll try to show you in the next class. Not sure whether I will be able to do so. I need to find out a router and remotely log in it. So in a router also, you can make a remote login to its interface, and you can do the configuration there. Okay. If you have configured a kind of Wi-Fi router, you have possibly done the similar kind of thing. In case of Wi-Fi router also, we need to do it. This kind of configuration. So we need to provide an IP to that router. So we'll provide an IP to this router from this block of IP address. Well, so that is the software component of it, where you are providing the IP addresses at the network interface card through your kernel. Now here, whenever I am combining two subnets together, that means here you see I need to provide another router. Well, so a task of the router is basically to interconnect multiple networks together. So here from VGSUM, there would be one router which is connecting all the physical machines of VGSOM. There also in the similar way, I will give one IP address from this block of IP addresses, say from 203.110.12.1, 203.110.12.2.12.3.12.4 that way, and one IP will be given to this routing interface. Well, similarly, for the E department, the same thing will be done. Then these two routers, here I need the requirement for a hardware. I need a third router which will interconnect these two routers together. And to this router, I will provide an IP address from this block of IP address 203.110.8.0/21. So maybe I will provide an IP address to this interface as 203.110.8.1. This outgoing interface which is connecting to the E router as 203.110.8.2./21, and the interface which is connecting to the VGSOM router as 203.110.8.3/21. Okay, and then these two routers are again connected to this router at the CIC. So this router at the CIC, it will have three different interfaces, and that IP can be taken from either this /19 subnet or /21 subnet, depending on the way you are going to configure. So that means once you are deciding about the block of IP addresses, accordingly, you need to connect the routers, which are the hardwares, and a router will have multiple different interfaces, and you need to provide an IP address to each of that interface, depending on in which subnet that interface belongs to. Okay. So is it clear? And from that information, we are finally going to construct the routing table. I think in a couple of slides from now, I am going to show you that how do we construct the routing table.
So there is some confusion with the interconnection part. Like how do we interconnect VGSOM with EE?
Interconnect VGSOM with EE via this router. Okay. So for example, via this router which has an IP address 203.110.8.0. Okay.
Okay. So
say if you want to forward a packet from VGSOM to EE, the packet should, so from this machine, it will have a configuration or it will have an IP address from this block of IP address 203.110.12/0/23. Okay, so that and it will have a default, which is the IP address of the interconnecting interface of the router of VGSOM. Okay, so the packet which is originating from VGSOM and the packet and the destination IP at the EE. So first it will see what is the default gateway. The packet will be forwarded to this default gateway. Now within this router 203.110.12.0 from that subnet, it will have a routing table. I will show you later on how to construct the routing table. It will forward the packet to the next level router, which is from this subnet 203.110.8.0/21. Then it will again do this routing calculation, and it will find out that the packet need to be forwarded to the subnet 203.110.10.0/23. So the packet will be forwarded to the router, which is the gateway router of EE, and that router will finally decide the end host, and the packet will be forwarded.
okay, sir. Thank you.
Sir, I had another doubt.
Yeah.
Sir, in this design, we are because we are avoiding all zeros and all ones submasks, we are losing half of our address space, as far as I understand.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Sir, then so isn't it always beneficial to make very small to make this very small each this subnet?
Okay.
So where do
excellent question. I would say excellent. You actually thought of something very interesting stuff or very excellent stuff. Well, here is a trade-off. So what is the trade-off? That if we are going for larger subnet, you told that because we are going to avoid all zeros and all one subnets, we are going to waste certain block of IP addresses. Okay. So for example, subnet 00 and subnet 11, I am not assigning anyone. So all those block of hosts I am actually wasting. But the trade-off is in terms of number of routers that you are connecting. So for example, I might have a more optimized design. If I, in terms of IP addressing, if I make CSE as a 4 different subnets of 500 hosts, then you see every subnet will require a gateway router. Well, so I will need 4 different routers for CSE, 2 routers for VGSUM. That means 1 router for VGSUM, 1 router for E. That means 4 plus 5 plus 4 plus 1 plus 1, total 6 number of different routers. But here we are doing it with 4 number of routers. Now, these routers are the hardware. They are the kind of very costly device. Okay, if you want to put more number of routers in your network, you need to invest more amount of money, because typically a router cost in the, so if you even procure a simple router which does not have lot of intelligence or something like that, it will cost something 80,000 to 1 lakh, okay, per router. And later on we'll discuss that why that routers are so costly. Okay, so that's why the trade-off that we have in terms of cost and the IP address wastage. Well, so if you believe that, well, if we even do not use those block of IP addresses and still I will be able to manage all the subnets within my network, people try to create large subnets so that they can do it with small number of routers. But otherwise, if you need to have a more optimized way of utilizing the IP addresses, you need to invest more number of routers, hence more operational cost or procurement cost. Okay, so one example I can give it to you. I think a couple of years back, you were in the first year 10, I think it was in 2019. During that time, we had a complete readdressing of the IP address block within IIT Kharagpur. Okay, and one of the requirements was something like that. We had divided in a different way earlier, and as we had new buildings coming up within IIT Kharagpur, we had a requirement of more number of IP address block. So the CIC decided that rather than procuring more number of IP addresses, because procuring IP addresses means that is a kind of recurrence cost. Every year you have to bear that cost. And typically procuring a router again means, although you have to do a one-time investment, one-time large investment, but still if you procure a router can, if you manage it correctly, it can go for 5-6 years or even sometime 10 years. Okay, a long-term plan. So that way CIC decided that, well, rather than procuring more number of IP address blocks, let us procure more number of routers and have small subnets, so that we can create new block of IP addresses and use that block of IP addresses for assigning to these new buildings. And that's why we had a complete readdressing of the block of IP addresses at different departments. Okay, that we had in 2019. So that kind of things keeps on happening within our organization. So depending on your requirement, depending on your budget that you have, you try to optimize everything. Okay. So
Okay.
am I able to clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other doubt? Okay. So let me take a 5-minute break. Currently it is 9:10. So I'll be back at 9:15 and we'll again start. Okay. Okay.